Welcome to Mendable. This is what I hope will be the first of many recordings that we'll do with the Mendable family, and it is quite an extensive family. So who better to start with than the founder of Mendable, Sophia May. And can you believe that this is the first time that we're meeting in person and we've known each other for 3 years?
I don't know if you noticed, but after I hugged you, I had to stop and just look at you in the face for a second, just to make it real.
I mean, even like 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had those experiences of that. And you know, to explain what I'm talking about, Sophia and I first met on the Mendable Clubhouse room. It was June of 2021.
Is that when it was?
Early.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't there quite at the beginning, but I saw the room and I went in, and actually it was the first time that I'd ever spoken in a Clubhouse room.
Wow.
And we've had many Zoom calls and phone calls and talked on the Mendable Clubhouse room many times. But this is the first time we've met in person, so it's a great milestone.
I do feel really grateful that you've come to see me in person. I know we're doing the interview, but for me it's just nice to really, when you start to meet people. And I was saying, you know, just feels like I've known you forever, which I have for a while now, but it feels like I've been in your presence before, which is, that's something, isn't it?
It's so much more meaningful to have that personal connection, and you know the person really exists, but you don't know until you see them in person.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
So, Mendable is, as I say, now quite an extensive family. You talk about it as your family. You've even recorded a song about the Mendable family. So, would you, in like high-level terms, assuming that people who are listening don't have a medical background, don't have a technology background, what is Mendable?
Well, for me, Mendable is a safe space, whether it be, you know, in an app, in a community, wherever it is, for people to really share themselves and be accepted for being themselves, to help develop, grow, basically somewhere where people can look after their well-being. You know, we're living in a world now where services are very stretched, but actually it's, you know, people are more likely to talk about their mental health and where they are. And with services being stretched, what better than to find ways to help ourselves? And that's what Mendable is. It was more about, it was, you know, it came through from the pandemic, and it was about people needing support, and what better way to do it than how we did with Clubhouse and the community that was built there.
Yeah. And how many people have cycled through the Clubhouse room since you started it?
I think it's about 26,000 people. Yeah. So our rooms aren't always massive, right, because people won't always engage. So, you know, it's not somewhere where people have to be. It's somewhere where people have the space to be if they want to. I make that very clear in the room. People don't have to be there, but, you know, come and share good stuff, come and share difficult times, whatever it is, just know that it's there. And I think that's the main thing, is that we've been consistently open. So if people do need to come in, they can. But 25,000+ people. Yeah.
And it's built a sense of community. And that, I think, is one thing that we can thank the pandemic for. Not many things that I'm grateful for with the pandemic, but I think one thing we can thank the pandemic for is that it really encouraged us to look at how our sense of community really develops and where it is. And it's not necessarily the local community centre where you meet in person. It can be globally. And people from all over the world are in that Clubhouse room.
That's kind of what makes it so special for me, I think, that we have people from all different cultures, all different backgrounds, different sexualities. We literally have people from everywhere, different genders. But the non-judgment in that space and the love is created, not because people don't certainly have views about those things, but when you listen to somebody's story, when you hear other people accepting, you're more likely to accept too. And I think that's what goes on in that space.
Yeah. And I would say, you know, for me, what it did for me was illustrate that by talking about mental health, mental well-being, we're gradually removing that stigma. Yeah. And, you know, people like your dad, for example, who is a participant.
Can't get rid of him.
Yeah. He's probably the oldest regular participant for sure on that program. Yeah. And, you know, he's very much of a generation that people didn't talk about it. There was a stigma, there was a shame, there was, a sense of like being crazy. I mean, there's all the bad stuff that was associated with mental illness.
Yeah, and especially, you know, coming from Jamaica, that was an increased thing, you know, from being from there. I mean, just the little story for those that are listening to understand why my dad is there and participates regularly. Because I was so busy with running the rooms, you know, there's a lot of the background stuff. It's not just about showing up, it's making sure that we've got people there to support and all of that stuff. So quite busy around that time, and he said to me, you know, Soph, what are you doing? We can't ever reach you. What were you doing? And I said, I can't, it's hard to explain. I think you should just come in and have a listen. So he did, and I don't think he's missed one room since.
He's always there.
He's always there.
Yeah.
Always there.
And affectionately known as Papa Amos.
Papa
he's
Amos.
Like
it's an ongoing joke.
He's like everybody's favourite father, grandfather that they really wish they could have. And, just
and I have to keep saying, it's my dad. Yeah.
So, you know, so Mendable has developed as a movement, as a community.
Yeah.
The next thing you're looking at is running workshops and taking that out more live to people. Yes. Are you looking at doing that in person, online, a little bit of both maybe?
Yeah, so for me, just kind of when Mendable was created, it was the purpose was to help people, to help as many people as possible. So for me, the idea of expanding outside of the Clubhouse community room and then, you know, onto the app and then workshops and then potentially like hubs, like in-person hubs around the world, that's the ultimate goal. And I know it sounds like a massive dream, but I believe it's achievable. I believe that. And I know that we can make that happen because we've got so many people dedicated to doing this. So the workshops were created, I wrote them along with Gregory, Pat Starr, I don't know how he'd want to be referenced as, but me and him wrote them on the basis that we could use the technology from the app within the workshop because it would kind of be something that would be really unique and not been done before, about learning about ourselves and our well-being and what actually works for us. One shoe size does not fit all when it comes to mental health. You know, you might break a leg and you know that bone needs to be fixed there, but with mental health it doesn't work like that. So the idea with everything that we've come up with is that we can cater to many different ways to try and help as well. So yes.
Yeah, and that will be, I'm sure, you know, the rollout will get it out a lot further and to a lot more people, so that'll be really beneficial.
Yes, and sorry, in answer to your question, so yes, online, I'd love to do in person. It'd be great to do conferences as well around Mendable, that sharing of the testimony. I think sometimes people just need to hear somebody else, in particular with men, because, you know, Mendable started around the men's rooms, particularly with men finding it difficult to share, but also finding it difficult to know how to support another man as well. You know, us women can come to the aid of a woman and we can show our empathy, whereas for men it's apparent that it can be a lot more difficult to do that. So it's about how you respond to people as well as being able to open up and share. Yeah.
I've said for many years now, you know, women have done a much better job in asking for help.
Yeah.
And talking about things and not being afraid to talk about things.
Yeah.
And that's something, it is changing. And I'm seeing the generational thing is changing. Younger people now are much more in touch with their own feelings and empathy with other people.
Yeah. Which is great, David. I think that's great. But also you have to have what's next from that. You know, if we're in a world now where people are starting to express how they're feeling, who's holding that?
Right.
You know, who's able to help with the responsibility of that, or what comes from that? Because if you're letting out past trauma and you have no safe space to do that, or nothing to hold you, what happens next? That's carnage.
Yeah, and well-meaning friends don't always work.
100%, especially if those well-meaning friends are not as easy with their own emotions as well. It could often, you know, if you imagine you start to open up and somebody shuts you back down because they're not able to manage that. They're not able to manage that, then that could almost leave you worse off.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about mental health, and Sophia is speaking very knowledgeably here because you are actually a mental health professional yourself.
Yeah, I'm a mental health nurse. I've been qualified since 2017, and I now teach our future nurses, I don't teach them. I facilitate and encourage them to become great mental health nurses. So I lecture as well.
So the same type of concept as you're looking to roll out in the workshops is really spreading the word and the education.
Absolutely. And also, you know, giving the opportunity for people to really learn the expertise so that they can go on and teach others. It's each one teach one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't foresee it being something where, even though we've got lots of people on board with Mendable, we need to expand on that, those people that can facilitate the spaces in order to really roll it out to the wider population.
Yeah. And you're not just a mental health nurse. You have you did have a successful career as a singer-songwriter 15 to 20 years ago, maybe?
David!
Yes,
I am that.
Let's redo that.
Leave it. You know I don't care. And no, leave that, please. A long time ago. No, it's got to be 2007. What's that?
Yeah, that's 17 years. Yeah.
You can't cut it out because that's just showing what it is.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
But
Yes, I had a number one song a long time ago. I had a few top tens in a sort of 4-year period, and I got to travel the world, and it actually is what kind of sparked my interest in people.
Right.
So, you know, I was going to these shows and I was around people that were kind of acting in the typical celebrity way, and I was like, I want to hang out with my fans. I'm here on my own. I don't want to act like that. And I would get to know people, and it was the thing that I really enjoyed, was the networking, the people. So yeah, I came back from living in America for a year. I was working with one of 50 Cent's artists, and then I came back and decided to do my nursing and get my qualification in my nursing. Yeah.
Is it a lonely life to be a performer?
I would say that it kind, yes and no. So it kind of was for me because my success was in America, so I would have to travel over there, do shows, but at the same time, not really, because I am a talkative person. I met lots of people along the way, and it's the reason why I've come out with music recently, is because I've kept those relationships with people in the industry. So
I was just about to say you just recently made a comeback.
Yeah, I know. That's Dad's fault. Dad said to me, "I just think you should do it. Just give it a go. I'll help with the children. You know, just do it." I think it's something that he was the one sort of driving me around at 15 to keep me safe when I was going to work with producers and things, and he's always, like, my mum's very much been, you need to make sure you do well at school and you're driven and you get your career, and then my dad, although he was still those things, he was like, you know, you're creative. It was more that sort of vibe. I think Dad was more hands-on, Mum was more academic, and I just happened to be blessed in both areas, if I'm honest. I think I've taken on from both of them. I'm really grateful. Yeah. So yes, I have released a new song. It's called Tomorrow Another Day, and it's doing really well so far. It went straight in at number one on the DJ Choice, so we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
Is there going to be more?
Well, yes. So I'm going to go to LA in May.
Okay.
And I'm going to record the album. So I've got some writing to do alongside everything else in my life, and I'm going to do it because I've also got lots of music that I sell top lines and things like that. So my work rate with writing songs is fairly fast. So I'm going to do it, but I don't care of the outcome. And that sounds really awful because I know there's lots of people that they're driven and that's their, you know, music is their life. And for me, I guess I know the realities of the industry, which has brought me so many great things and I'm grateful for, but I'm more about the expression. The fact that I've been able to express. I'm writing like this time round. I want it to all be very much very conscious stuff, as conscious as I get as a basic writer. But I want it to be meaningful. Yeah. It has to be meaningful for me this time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun journey. I've told them already I don't really want to gig much because I've got the little one, and I know that my eldest had less time than I would have liked when she was little because my song went to number one and I had I didn't have to travel, but I did in the respect of it was a really good way to put a home over her head and stuff. So, yeah.
So your music work, Mendable, your nursing teaching, and you're a mother of a 16-year-old and an 18-month-old.
Yeah. Mm.
I'm going to be very cliche here. How do you deal with life balance?
Oh, I don't know, David. Sometimes I ask myself the same question. I have my 18-month-old is, as you saw, full of energy, but she's a wonderful sleeper. So I do get to get quite a bit done of an evening, which is really helpful. I mean, she sleeps very well, and I don't want to jinx that, but she is a good sleeper, so that helps. I think I've just always, I probably thrive off the pace. I don't know. I probably have moments where I feel like I'm going to crash. Delegation's not my greatest quality, and I think I'm trying to work on that more now.
It's a continual learning experience, really learning about yourself.
Yeah.
Understanding yourself, and sometimes you almost need to take that step aside and look at yourself from the outside and say, and for me, it's often the case that I can advise people to do things, but do I listen to that myself?
We never do. We never do. At the moment, I'm very much saying, right, one day a week, I'm just going to put everything aside, say a day, one evening a week to myself, where I can just, and I'm not talking about the time with my daughters, I do make time for that and the weekends and things, but the piece for me to just watch rubbish on TV, whatever it is, just some time. I'm still working on that one, but I think a single mum, and I say single mum loosely because their fathers are in the picture, absolutely, but they're both here with me, so I'm doing the sort of day-to-day stuff. For anyone like that, I guess the answer is you just do it. You just find a way and do it.
And you can't necessarily plan for the way everything's going to go because you don't know how
an
an 18-month is going to be 18-month-old is going to be feeling on any given day. You just have to go with it.
And also, as you know, my eldest has partial chromosome deletion, so she has the health and learning needs herself. So I've kind of had this since she was little. I've just kind of been, I think in my head, I'm just thinking this is my children's future, and I want to be, but I do want to be well enough physically and mentally, to be around. And I'm aware, I'm conscious of that part the older I'm getting as well. Not putting too much on me. Yeah.
Where do you get your inspiration from? Are there any people out there that you really admire, either for your music work or for your mental health work, or just you as a person that you really admire that give you inspiration? If you'd asked me that question maybe 4 years ago or 10 years ago, I probably would have said, certainly for music, it's been the kind of the Whitneys, the Mariahs, those sort of people. I've always been fascinated by their vocals, and I used to follow their runs on when I'd watch them on shows and things like that. I feel like I take a bit of inspiration from most people that I meet now. That sounds probably a bit odd, but I really feel like I do. I take a piece of everything. I'm in a place where I'm grateful for a lot now. I think that's why I'm in a good place, considering all the things that are on sort of piling on top. But I'd say I'd probably take a bit of inspiration from anyone that I meet. We all have qualities, don't we? I think we're in a world where we can often look to the worst first, and I consciously don't do that now. Yeah. Coming back to Mendable, how many people are involved? How many people are behind the scenes? Because it's very, very much your thing. You're the founder.
Well, you are, David. So there's at the moment there's kind of two sides, isn't there? It's not two sides because we are all one, but we have the app development side. So we've got David and Dan and Lucas and Simon and yourself. We've got Steve. We've got people continuously on board. We've got Nicole and Pap and Corey and then we've got the Mendable Club side. And don't ask me to name everybody, but lots and lots of
You'll miss out
wonderful people. I won't. I did a radio interview a little while back, and I wrote down the names of every person I can think of that had ever come through in the Mendable room, just in the sense of moderating and that sort of background work. And I managed to pull it off, but it took me a good about minute and a half to reel out all the names. Lots of wonderful people that are dedicated to helping others and themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think you've got to help yourself in order to help others. So that's the idea.
So if you had to predict the future of Mendable, or your vision for Mendable, where would you like to see it go?
I really feel like Mendable could be a really, really important in between from healthcare and the individual. That learning of self is so important, and I think that we could actually really do some great things for, our services and for people. Most importantly, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a real impact in that in between, where people can actually do that self-discovery and self-healing. Yeah. Right. It sounds small, but if you really think about that and you apply it globally, I think that could have a huge impact. I already know we have a huge impact. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you like a two-part question. First is, if anybody's listening who doesn't know about Mendable, how can they get involved? How can they get in to participate? And for people that are already part of the Mendable family, what can they do to further develop the movement?
Okay. You might have to remind me of the second question. I've been up since 5 o'clock. So for anybody that wants to get involved with Mendable, we have the website. It's probably the central point. So it's www.mendable.app. In there, have a look around. You can have an idea for what's coming for the app. We've got testimonies on there. You can either listen to or read, depending on what you prefer. We've got the online support, so it will link you into the free online support, and it is free. I say that because sometimes when people think about help, they attach it to a money value, and I don't think that there should be really a money value to help. So that's another reason why for Mendable we want to get lots of different streams so that we can reach as many as possible. So we've got that there. We've got a bit of a background about our app developers and myself. What else on the website? There's quite a lot on there. There's links to other support as well available, some good kind of signposting to places. So have a look on the website. Come on a Monday or a Thursday. We have the rooms every Monday and every Thursday without fail for the last 3 years. We just celebrated 3. I thought it was 4. Got that wrong. But that's at 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Pacific. Anyway, if you check out, if you go on the link, it will tell you what times the rooms are on. But they're definitely on every Monday and every Thursday. Come on in. It's the design of it is. You can listen to it like a podcast. You don't have to speak. There's no pressure to speak. There's really nice ways that you can interact by sort of throwing up hearts and things like that. I know you know this, but just for anyone that doesn't. But you can also come up on the stage. We have people that might be listening for months, and then someone will share something that resonates with them, and then they'll pop up onto the stage and decide to share. But I can promise anyone that comes in there is going to be greeted with love, respect, non-judgment, and passion. I think everybody goes away feeling good about that room.
And it can be a very intimidating thing for somebody who's never shared anything like this before, to go out and talk to a bunch of strangers who they don't know. Hugely. But we are very aware of that. That's why I don't put pressure on people to, maybe some of the moderators I might. But we know, the thing about that room is we laugh, we cry, we do it all in there, right? It's not, you're not coming into a space where you might feel like, I might come away feeling worse. You won't come away feeling worse, because that's not ever how we end things in that room. But it's an opportunity, and it is as safe as we can make it space to share.
and be loved.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of lonely people out there as well that just need to know that there are people that care, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I'm actually going to give another little shout out to Sophia's dad, Papa Amos, and say that, you know, he has got a very long story of a lot of things he's been through in his life. I hope to interview him as well at some point, so I won't tell his story, but he's been through a lot, and if anybody could be feeling down, I could see how he would have his moments, and yet he always seems to find the most supportive, encouraging comments for other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is just wonderful.
And you find that a lot in the room, where somebody will encourage, support and love somebody else, and then when it's their turn to share, they're going through something deeply hurtful, but in the moment where they're being supportive of somebody else, that's the lift, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the bit that you know, the evidence says that supporting of others is really helpful for our own mental health. Come outside of what's going on for yourself, and to support others. That's the beauty of that room. But yes, my dad is he's nails. Dad has his moments, and I mean, he has been through a lot, and many years as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, we all support him,
and those are the people that can really contribute and help.
Absolutely.
In many ways, yeah.
And I didn't answer the second part to your question. Those that are involved in Mendable already, just keep coming back.
Okay.
Just keep coming back. Whenever you want.
Good.
No pressure.
Yeah.
It's always lovely to see people. We had the 3-year celebration, and we had, you know, people like Johnny and people that hadn't been in for a long time, because ultimately people have gone back to work, and the time in the day for America especially is quite difficult. But, you know, people will come back through, and it was just so lovely to hear their voices in the room.
Yeah.
It was a real lift for everybody.
Good. So, people, get involved. Please come into the Clubhouse room, www.mendable.app. That is the website. Go take a look around. Lots of things, lots of ways you can get involved. And let's come back and do this again another time when things will be different. I know that maybe a year from now things will be different.
Oh, things are always changing.
Yeah.
But it's always positive, actually, with Mendable, I found.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that.
And look out for more of these videos. I'm going to be interviewing other members of the Mendable family, so there's going to be other good stuff coming through soon.
Before we go, I just want to say a massive thank you to you, David, because actually when you stepped into Mendable, I'm sure you weren't betting on everything that you've kind of gone and done in the background for us, but it is massively appreciated, and I feel blessed to have met you today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, and you know, having worked in somewhere like Silicon Valley for a good chunk of my career, I've done a lot of work for people whose only motivation is money.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody wants their business to be successful. A business can't be successful unless it's profitable, and that includes every business, no matter who they are. But when you also care about the mission and what it is doing and how it can help people, that becomes more important. And I'm fortunate that I'm at a time in my life that I can focus on things like this. So I'm also glad to be here.
Yeah. Just look out for more of these Mendable interviews from David. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.